Board of County Commissioners acts as a quasi-judicial body when it hears requests for rezoning and conditional use permits. Applicants must provide competent, substantial evidence establishing facts or expert witness opinion testimony showing that the request meets the zoning code and comprehensive plan criteria. Opponents must also testify as to facts or provide expert testimony whether they like or dislike a request is not competent evidence. The board must then decide whether the evidence demonstrates consistency and compatibility with the comprehensive plan and the existing rules in the zoning ordinance, property adjacent to the property to be rezoned, and the actual development of the surrounding area. The board cannot consider speculation, non-expert opinion testimony, or poll the audience by asking those in favor or opposed to stand up or raise their hands. If a commissioner has had communications regarding a rezoning or conditional use permit request before the board, the commissioner must disclose the subject of the communication and the identity of the person, group, or entity with whom the communication took place before the board takes action on the request. Likewise, if a commissioner has made a site visit, inspection, or investigation, the commissioner must disclose that fact before the board takes action on the request. Each applicant is allowed a total of 15 minutes to present their request, unless time is extended by majority vote of the board. The applicant may reserve any portion of the 15 minutes for rebuttal. Other speakers are allowed 5 minutes to speak. Speakers may not pass their time to someone else in order to give that person more time to speak.
We are at a county commission meeting, and it is a zoning meeting September 2, and I'm looking for Pastor Mark Burney. Good evening, sir. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you for the opportunity to address the Lord on your behalf. Let us pray. Father, I want to thank you for the opportunity that we have to come before you. I thank you, Lord God, that we are still a nation that requires the wisdom of the Almighty. Lord, we recognize that there are different levels of wisdom in our humanity and in the world and the age that we live in. But Lord, there's no wisdom any more supreme than that of the great Creator, you. And so, Lord, we call upon you tonight on behalf of this body and these distinguished leaders in our community, that you would grant them wisdom, knowledge, understanding, equitable peace, Father, and the ability, Father, to discern in matters, judging in people's lives and the effects and the outcomes in our community, bringing peace and harmony for the benefit of the greater good. I thank you, Lord God, that you are faithful to that. So I invoke your presence in this place for this cause, that they may be able to acquire the things that they need from you in order to fulfill their duties. We give you praise for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. We have a quorum. I call this meeting to order. Commissioner.
Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have March 9 minutes that need approved.
Motion for approval, Lober.
Motion by Commissioner Lober, second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. We have one item on consent.
Motion to approve consent, Lober.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the consent item, second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. We have public comment cards, and Geraldine Bird. Hi, ma'am. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Geraldine Bird. I live in Rockledge Drive in Rockledge. I'm here speaking about fluoride in the MIMS water. I am a dental spouse. I work in our oral surgery office. I'm a mom, a volunteer, and I've been a race director for the Tooth Trot, which gives money to give kids a smile, for now going on 24 years. I have had fluoride in my drinking water since I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1955, and I still have fluoride in my water in Rockledge. I am very concerned about the lack of fluoride in the MIMS drinking water. You are the Board of County Commissioners, yet you quickly voted to remove fluoride from MIMS without prior notice. You then called for a ballot in the mail. You receive 30% of those back, of which 70% voted in the affirmative for fluoride in the water. Yet that wasn't good enough. This board was voted in by the people, yet none of you lives in MIMS. It seems as you run as an oligarchy. You are the Board of County Commissioners. You are supposed to work for the good of the majority. Each of you on this board can decide for yourself, looking at the research and the science that tells you that fluoride is indeed good for people in the drinking water. Yet, I feel that one person controls your vote on this board. I think that each of you needs to stand on your own. I am not sure if it's special interests that you want voted for yourself, that's why you want to side with the one person, or if you've truly looked at the research and science for yourself. We are a community, and you, as the Board of County Commissioners, should support the people. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have Dr. Patel. Hey, Dr. Patel.
Hi. Good evening, Commissioners. I understand this is a zoning meeting. However, to our work schedules and family life, this is my only chance to speak to all of you at once. I'm not a lobbyist. The time that my colleagues and I spend defending community water fluoridation is my own, and I do so on behalf of my pediatric dental patients and behalf of my dental and medical colleagues who have supported this issue. I've heard some untruths that I would like to set straight with the support of the Brevard County Medical Society, which is Brevard County's largest group of medical providers, and also Dr. Jane, the owner and board-certified endocrinologist of Access Endocrinology. They wrote letters in support for community water fluoridation that were submitted to all of you this week. They deny, as medical professionals, all of the claims that have been made at previous meetings regarding thyroid dysfunction and its link to community water fluoridation. Commissioner Pritchett and Commissioner Zonka both showed support of the COVID vaccination at the last meeting. Commissioner Zonka also spoke eloquently regarding the safety and FDA support of the vaccination and the misinformation that's been spread regarding the side effects. Community water fluoridation has been studied for over 75 years and is supported by every major medical organization in our county and country. Our own medical professionals, who have been working tirelessly combating the COVID disease and the misinformation, have also spoken out against the fluoride misinformation. You as commissioners have a responsibility towards the community to address this and make it right for our patients, but also for our providers that you thanked last week. There are no simple fixes to cavities. Even with toothpaste, floss, mouthwash, dietary counseling, oral hygiene instructions, I still see decay all day long. I wish that wasn't the case. Last week, Commissioner Smith asked a speaker about whether cavities were transmissible, and the speaker said no, that's absolutely false. Just like any other disease, cavities are transmissible. They're caused by a bacteria called Streptococcus mutans. We share that bacteria by sharing food, kisses, etc. So a high-risk adult with cavities can give their child an increased risk of having cavities just by living in the same house. Dental cavities are the most common disease of childhood, and the bacteria that causes them is transmissible. However, if a child also has access to fluoride in the form of toothpaste, mouthwash, or the easiest method, sipping on tap water all day, that decreases their chance for decay significantly. There are many social determinants of health: economic stability, physical environment, education, food, and governmental influences. Policy changes like the one that was decided here in May to remove fluoride will account for a large negative health impact on the MIMS community. Healthcare doesn't stop at district lines, the way that you've noted that decision-making does in this case. Patients without fluoride incorporated into their teeth will move to your other districts. And so why does their health and voice matter only if they may cast a ballot in your particular district? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And Dr. Angela McKnight.
Hi there, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good evening, Commissioners. Dr. Angela McKnight, Satellite Beach, Florida. I am the current president of the Brevard County Dental Society and a practicing orthodontist here in Brevard. First, I want to say thank you for having us at a zoning meeting. Our businesses don't allow us to be here at earlier meetings. We are here again to show you that the Brevard County Dental Society and the Brevard County Medical Society stand united in an effort to bring fluoride back to the MIMS community. None of us are being paid for our involvement here. None of us here are part of any fluoride groups. We are volunteers doing our best to inform and protect our patients. You have received letters from many groups, most recently the CDC, the Florida Department of Health, the American Dental Association, and the Brevard County Medical Society. They are urging you to listen to the years of research so you can help the people you were voted in with their medical and dental health. The Space Coast should be known for its dedication to science and its devotion to safe and effective public health measures, including community water fluoridation. Not turning our back and ignoring what good research shows us that community water fluoridation is effective and it is safe. We are here to also address some of the claims that have been made over the last few meetings. For the claim that community water fluoridation is mass medication, there have been 108 lawsuits brought against community water fluoridation, and not once has it ever been ruled as mass medication. I encourage you to visit fluidlaw.org if you're interested in reading about these court decisions. FLUID law.org. There have also been questions posed about whether or not using fluoridated toothpaste and fluoride rinse are a substitute for drinking fluoridated water. Toothpaste and fluoridated rinses do not have the same effect as community water fluoridation. While one-shot exposure to high concentrations of fluoride in toothpaste are valuable, they are not a substitute for the very effective, consistent exposure of the teeth to a low level of fluoride throughout the day as provided by community water fluoridation, which decreases decay from 25 to 45%. While we have and still continue to implore you as a board to reconsider its removal, we thought it very generous of Commissioner Pritchett to propose a vote. From the numbers you have provided, over 70% of the ballots had been returned in favor of fluoride. That surpasses the supermajority threshold, and a 34% paper ballot mail return is pretty good. It's clear that MIM residents want community water fluoridation return. We hope you will listen to them. Thank you.
ma'am. Ms. Susan Antune? Dr. Antune, you'll be next, sir.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Susan Antone. I've lived in fluoridated Sun Tree and consumed cocoa water since 1979. We chose our home partly because of fluoridated water. I was born in Gainesville, which was the first city in Florida to have fluoridated water, and I grew up in fluoridated Jacksonville. I'm 70 years old, and thanks to good public health practices, I have never had polio, I've never had smallpox, and I've never had a cavity. I read with some interest all of the alleged conditions the Florida Action Network claims that one can get from fluoridated water. I have none of them, and neither does any member of my extended family. I was particularly amused by their latest claim about infertility. I have 5 grown children. They are healthy and have nearly perfect teeth. They have 8 children, and they have nearly perfect teeth. I hope the Commission will agree to restore these proven health benefits for the families of MIM. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you for shortening your weekend to do our business here. We appreciate it. My name is Jim Antone. I'm a practicing periodontist in Rockledge, Florida. I've lived here since 1979, but I also grew up here prior to that. We're here because this is an important issue for all of our patients and our fellow citizens. The dental and medical communities will continue to work for the return of fluoridation. I worked on this issue for 20 years before MIMS was fluoridated. We know that this is a successful public health benefit from over 7,000 studies over 75 years. It's a wonderful health benefit for children. I want to make a few corrections. Some of them have already been done, which I'll skip. Fluoride is a nutrient. It's required for proper development of health. It's especially important for children and teeth. It's not a medication. This claim has been answered by the CDC, the FDA, in over 100 court cases. There certainly is community water fluoridation in Europe, Great Britain, and Asian countries as well. The reason it was added to milk and salt for many decades in Europe was because the water wasn't potable or drinkable. So it made more sense to put it in salt and milk so that the children and adults could consume it. Now that there are modern chlorination systems in Europe and Asia, you're seeing more and more fluoridation systems added. My 4 boys were high school athletes in Brevard County, Satellite High School, in fact, track and basketball. They would routinely consume 2 liters of water or more during a practice day or game day. Many of us do so routinely. It's good for our health and completely safe. Suggesting otherwise is misleading and frightening, and I've seen some of the organizations suggest this. Please consider that nearly 80% of Americans are served by fluoridated water. It is not toxic. It prevents nearly 25%, sometimes 50% of dental decay that would normally occur. As you've heard from the medical community, and especially the pediatricians, that decay untreated can cause medical complications, including facial abscess, socket abscesses, bronchiolitis, and even brain abscesses. Why would the children and adults of MIMS in Brevard County not benefit from community water fluoridation like the rest of us? Not one credible, recognized scientific organization in the world opposes community water fluoridation. If we are to be a high-tech community and attract high-paying jobs, we need to be first in public health and not return to the 1940s when dental infection was one of the leading causes of hospitalization and death. Please reconsider your position and honor the large apparent supermajority of MIMS who returned those survey ballots. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. I have Alvarez. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. The glove. I am Dr. Idaina Alvarez. I have been a pediatric dentist in Brevard County since 1994. I started my work in North Brevard County when I joined Dr. Eli White practice in Titusville in 1995. He has been a pillar of children's dental health in Brevard for many, many years. Actually, I think he's been a pediatric dentist in Brevard County for almost 40 years. While working there with Dr. White, I soon noticed a difference in the incidence of decay between the children of Titusville and the children of MIMS. I commented on this to Dr. White, and he explained me that at that time, MIMS did not have fluoride in the water, and Titusville did. And he felt that this was a large factor why these MIMS children have more decay than the Titusville one. He also explained me that he was working in 1994 with other dentists in that same area to get fluoridation in MIMS water to help to reduce decay and to provide this benefit to the children of that area. In 1998, Dr. White came one day excited to the office to let me know that they finally approved the fluoride in the MIMS area. And he was very excited that day because he felt that he was doing something for the children of that community. I can assure you that after a couple of years of working with him in the same practice, I saw the benefits to the children of MIMS in reduction of cavities and all the problems they cause. So today, after 23 years, I cannot understand why we're again here fighting for this fluoride that provides so much benefits to these children. This benefit is backed by science, and I'm not going to talk about the science. I think you have heard enough about the science. So I'm please asking you guys that, reconsider your decision and reinstate the benefit of the fluoride in the water for these children. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Pastor Karen Curry.
Good evening. Do I need to state my name?
Please.
Pastor Karen Curry from East Mims, Florida. I don't think out of all the people that have spoken tonight, I'm not sure that you've heard from a MIMS resident. So I had no intention of speaking tonight, but having seen that there's no other MIMS resident here, I wanted to make sure that our voices were heard as well. I am born and raised in East Mims, Florida, and I am very disappointed in the way that that this fluoridation issue sort of became a surprise for all of us. I don't understand, and it's a little frustrating, especially being that we have just established a new organization to improve the quality of life and do some community development in MIMS. It seems like as soon as we're starting to look at doing some things in that vein, now we're looking at something that would reduce the perceived value of living in that community. So I'm hoping that speaking on behalf of MIMS residents, East MIMS specifically, that you guys would please consider reversing that decision. It's frustrating. I don't understand it. And having not been told ahead of time that this was coming on the agenda or anything, it feels just a little bit dismissive of our entire community. So I hope that you guys would, in the future, have a town hall before the decision is made so that our voices can be heard about things like this that affect our everyday life and our children. So thank you.
Pastor Curry, you're the last one. Let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Did you mail your survey card back in?
I did.
Thank you so much. And just so you know, I'm going to talk about this in just a minute. If we were ever to put something in your water, I promise I would go door to door and see what you guys wanted as far as adding stuff for you. You have my word on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Just a couple things that I want to mention, then Commissioner Lober, I'll let you jump in, sir. First of all, I'm going to read to you what I sent to the newspaper today. He asked for some information, so I'm going to let you guys know because you haven't been here to hear it yet, so I think you should have this data as well. One is, as far as there's two sides of this, I'm just telling you, and I really have read science on both sides. I've got some documentation. They're written by MDs and PhDs. And the thing that got me, even with the COVID, you have so much disagreement. And here's the thing, if it ends up being good, wonderful, but I think the medical community's got a whole lot to work out as far as science of determining if this is safe. I believe it's good for teeth. I really believe from what I read that there's a lot of potential for damage to other parts of your body, and you're not going to see it right away. There's long-term effects. And I kind of am bothered. Everybody keeps bringing up the thyroid situation. I've lived with it. You know, you can argue with me about certain things coming up, but you can't argue with me about my testimony. I know what I've lived through. And you should at least grant the courtesy of saying, well, it could be possible with some people. Because to do absolutes with things in the medical community when it's science, I don't know, it just kind of gives me a little bit of struggle. As far as being a medication, the FDA does call it an unapproved drug. And a medication is anything that's used to treat an illness. And whether it's considered that in the medical field, public perception sees it as that. So you kind of have to push through that persona as well. And the profession that I work in with accounting, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, we call it a duck. So it looks like a medication. And it looks like we're doing a mass medication to a group of people, regardless whether they need it or not, regardless of their size and their weight, regardless on the amount that they might be taking in other items of fluoride. So there is a potential, even if everything comes out that it doesn't cause damage, that there could be large amounts going to a particular section of the population. But I want to read you as far as the survey. And I also want to note out, this commission did vote as it did on the consensus of thinking that I knew what my community wanted, and I still believe I know what my community wanted. There was enough opposition that came out, and I got to tell you, Ms. Curry, you're the only person from MIMS that has showed up here besides Miss Lisa to say anything. I've heard a lot from MIMS, so I have been listening. But just in case I missed a section of the population, I chose to do a survey because the MIMS meeting didn't work. I only had 20 people from MIMS there, and only a couple of them even spoke. So I decided to do a survey for me to see if I needed to come back and to relook at this. This is what I wrote to the TV guy today. For me to support mass medicating the water of fluoride, I would need to see strong support to do so. I have 770 out of 3,440 currently, which is less than 24% of the customers. 22 years ago, when there was less data on potential harm to the rest of our bodies, there was a very large positive response. 90% of the people responded. I did not see this support to put this back in the drinking water this day. This was a survey for me to see if a supermajority of MIMS really wanted this in the water. Please note, I sent 2 letters, a newsletter. I sent a postage-paid survey card to send back saying that they must vote yes and mail this back to me if they wanted it put back in the water. It has been in the newspaper every week for 2 months. I know everybody read the paper. It's been on the news TV. I posted it on Facebook. I had a huge community response of people saying they didn't want it in the fluoride. I've been taking fluoride in the water. I've been taking notes. There has been thousands of dollars people spent by all the groups encouraging people to vote for it, don't vote for it. They've done mailings, robocalls, signs, and billboards. I have not had a response of the supermajority of the community that wants the fluoridation. And people right now are pretty strong on what they want. I'm watching the COVID thing as well. People are very strong on what they want put in their bodies. And to kind of put this with the vaccine possibly could be life or death. There is time on this for the medical community to keep doing the studies to find out if the things that I'm reading are true. Now, granted, the community got to send me back what their thought was on it, and I think they spoke pretty loudly. I have a supermajority of the MIMS community, because I didn't tell them they had to vote no, but I told you guys you had your marching orders, go get the votes. And even though you guys don't live there, you did a wonderful job because you really believe in what you're doing, and I commend you for that. But you couldn't get the support for it, and I don't see the support for it either. So I did want to go ahead and let you guys know that. It should be on the news tonight, and I talked with the paper about that a while ago, and I've been talking to people, and everybody seems pretty confident where it's settled. I left it open for an extra 4 weeks just in case there was some late votes coming in, but I don't have the response that I was thinking that you guys were thinking you could get. It just did not come in. So anyways, that's where I've settled, and this had nothing to do with this board, with me doing the survey. It was my survey. People started saying I was doing an election. It has to be this percent. I don't know why everybody tried to take off with that, because it was never meant to do that. I just did it to try to get data to see if I could have missed it, and by the end of it, I'm pretty confident I didn't. Commissioner Lober.
All right. I know I'm going to get in trouble for commenting on this, but as those who like me and those who dislike me have probably picked up on by this point, I really don't have a filter. If that costs me votes in the future, so be it. If it gets me votes, so be it. But I just don't like playing games, and I'd rather just level with people and let them know where I'm at with things. Hopefully that's refreshing to some, or at least, let me just get into it. So, a few thoughts, and you can take them for what they're worth. There's nothing to read between lines, because there really are no lines. This is just kind of where I'm at this point. There's a difference between a dentist and a board-certified endocrinologist. And I say that for a reason. We've heard, I think, from Commissioner Pritchett in a prior meeting, or maybe even 2, about concerns about thyroid cancer or thyroid conditions. I trust my dentist implicitly. If he tells me that he needs to remove a tooth, I'm not going to get a second opinion. If he tells me I need a root canal, I'm not going to get a second opinion. I trust the guy. I would go out of my way for him. I would give him blood. I've seen him since maybe 91, the same dentist. Anything involving teeth or the mouth, whatever he says, I take second to the word of God. When it starts to go towards something that's not, where he doesn't have the same level of training and specialty. So if we're talking about side effects that are systemic, when we're talking about, let's say, thyroid cancer, I haven't heard anything from any experts. And I'm not saying I don't even believe what you're claiming, but in my profession, we're used to seeing folks cite the basis and point to the specific studies that were conducted by someone with the requisite experience, training, education. I'm not saying you can't even do that. For instance, we heard I think from Dr. McKnight, that fluoride in toothpaste isn't the same as fluoride in drinking water. Basically, a high-dose exposure isn't necessarily as effective, I guess, as what the implication was, as a prolonged low-dose exposure. You may well be right. I don't know. But to say it without citing it or telling me where you form that conclusion, what evidence, what empirical data led you to form that conclusion, I don't necessarily believe or disbelieve it. I don't know. As far as the Rockledge Drive resident, and excellent selection on where to live. You could not have done better than to choose that area. I say that living off Rockledge Drive myself. It's interesting in terms of the word special interest, or the term special interest, as that having been chosen. I've said this before, and I apologize for the folks that have been here and heard it. There have been a number of individuals at various times that think that I may share something closer to their opinion, perhaps in its entirety or in part. For instance, Rockledge Drive, the tree issue. If South Rockledge Drive were in my district, I will tell you point blank, I have a different take than Commissioner Smith on the tree issue. I have a bias on the tree issue, I'll freely admit, based on living there, but I have a different take. I don't view it as wrong as deferring to the commissioner in whose district the action or the inaction has a disproportionate impact. I don't view that as something that's wrong. There are counties where they elect commissioners at large. I think there's some counties where they have a mixture, where some are elected within their district and some are also elected at large. I view very carefully who's a constituent, and I do try, when it comes to matters, again, disproportionately or exclusively in some cases impacting one district, to stay in my wheelhouse. Because the fact of the matter is, if there's an issue with trees on the portion of Rockledge Drive that I live on, I would hope that Commissioner Smith would extend the same deference to me, understanding I live there, I work in that district. I can tell you there are portions of the county that I'm in less frequently than I am in Orlando or in Seminole County. We have a long county. The fact is, we're not experts, and I don't pretend to be an expert in the intricacies of MIMS any more than I do the intricacies of Grant-Valcaria. I can tell you I've been to both of those areas. I can count on at least two hands how many times I've been up to MIMS. I think it's a gorgeous area. I don't begrudge anyone for choosing to live there. Even if I don't necessarily share Commissioner Pritchett's opinions as far as her concerns or the level to which she's convinced in her concerns, I've got to tell you, I've been displeased by both sides in this fight or this issue, if you really want to know the truth. The folks that are extremely pro-fluoride and the folks that are extremely anti-fluoride. Because I just don't feel that they've really made a good presentation in terms of presenting the data with adequate citations. We're told to go to different websites that are put on either by an industry that stands to benefit one way or the other, and I've seen it from both sides. I think they're both equally guilty of that. And lastly, I'll just say, you know, there are folks on this issue, on the tree issue, on other issues that I'm sure others have gotten this up here, but I've gotten threats with, well, we're not going to vote for you in the future if you run for something, or, you know, we'll get someone to run against you. I don't want any elected official who is so spineless and so jello-like in their convictions that they're willing to change their position based on someone threatening them. I think that's despicable. Anyone that would change their position based on a threat, regardless of what it is, whether it's Commissioner Pritchett's position or the opposite, you have no business in elected governance if you're going to change your position based on a threat. I think that's the epitome of weakness. We don't need that in a representative democracy. But the bottom line to me, even if you made a justified argument, and I think you could, I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm not saying that it's even necessarily that difficult to do. It comes back to me, the ultimate question being, you know, where is this impact falling? Do we live in a representative democracy or a direct democracy? We live in a representative democracy. Commissioner Pritchett's been elected twice by pretty overwhelming numbers the last time, as I understand it. I have to defer to her. I have never, campaigning in 2018 or at any time since then or prior to then, ever said that I was going to do anything but exactly what I'm doing in trying to extend the same level of deference to my colleagues that I hope they will continue to extend to me. There are issues that will come up undoubtedly in District 2, and I'm sure in District 4 and 3 and 5, that the individual commissioner in whose district the problem or issue falls will need that deference. And I can't start picking and choosing which issues I need to fall on the sword on, even if I agree with you. So I'll tell you, I don't happen to share the same level of concern, but it doesn't change the fact that we live in a representative democracy. It's not something that impacts my constituents. It doesn't mean that I don't care about those people. It just means I have to defer to the elected representative that a majority of them who voted, a supermajority, in fact, chose. So I respect what you all are trying to do, but you can come here for every single meeting, and I don't know that it's going to change. My vote will change instantaneously as soon as Commissioner Pritchett's vote changes. I'll just tell you that on this issue. If she wants to put it back in, I'm with her. If she wants to keep it out, I'm with her. And frankly, unless there's a new or novel argument that is so extenuating, it would justify my deviating from, I think, what Commissioner Tobias called the Lober Doctrine with respect to deferring. You can come back again, and you're more than welcome, and I encourage you to take your 3 minutes, but it's not going to change my vote. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Lober. I do want to mention that if the MIMS would have sent overwhelming support, I would have come back and talked to the commission. I didn't see it, 23%, and that's generous. It was 22 point something. It's just not enough. And I got to say this, it gave me a few minutes to gather some more thoughts. This board or any board should not be making medical decisions for anybody. We should not be, I don't know how it ended up going in 40 years ago. Should not have happened. This should be an individual choice. Same with COVID shots. I will never vote to mandate COVID shots. Never. Do I think you should get one? Yeah, I had one. I think people should get them. I've had 4 people that I love this week die from it. So I believe it's an important thing, but I also completely believe in the Constitution of the United States of America, where we have free choice over our own personal bodies especially. And as long as people have a choice and they don't want to do something, they don't want to get a shot, they don't have to get a shot, they're running their own risk. They don't want the fluoride in the water, they don't have to. If it's a good thing, they're running their own risk. If it's a bad thing, and I have a lot that are adamantly strong about not wanting this, because they do not want to have this going in their body. And you're kind of, for lack of a better word, you're screwed if it's in there, because it costs a few $1,000s to try to get it out with these systems. Now, maybe I would make it so that all the guys that want it, if they'll put in a fund so I can put the reversible osmosis on everybody else's house that didn't have it, it might be something to consider, but that's quite a cost. So this is where I'm sticking. And as far as the fluoride, I let MIMS let me know if they wanted it, because the basic premise of this is I think it's wrong for any government to force someone to put something into their body. I think that's the biggest problem and the biggest concern right there. So I would have agreed to do it if I would have had a strong support, even though I still would have had some problems with it in my heart. But it just didn't pan out, guys. I didn't see it. And all the work you guys did to get people to do it, they just did not respond. So I believe that's the will of the people with everything in my heart. So we're going to move on from there. And we're going to item H1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. H1 and H2 will be read into the record as a companion application. You will need to have a separate vote for each of them, though. Item H1 is William D. and Elizabeth Ann Elliott, trustees, request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use designation from PI to Res 1. Application number 21PZ00033, tax accounts 2316601 and 2323951, located in District 2. Item H2 is William D. and Elizabeth Ann Elliott, trustees, request to change the zoning classification from PIP to RR-1. Application number is 21Z00020, tax account numbers 2316601 and 2323951, also located in District 2.
Commissioner Lober, this is yours, sir. I do have one card, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if it's for
Before
questions.
you do that, I think Mr. Mayor will be okay with where this goes. I do have one disclosure as to both of these items. I spoke with nearby resident Douglas Waller about the proposal, I believe, yesterday or the day prior. Apart from that, I believe since he's representing the applicant, if I make a motion to approve, I doubt he'll have a concern with respect to waiving his 3 minutes. Okay, that's my motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion to approve.
And this is as to H1.
Motion to approve H1 and a second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item H2, sir.
Motion to approve H2, Lober, please.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Lober, second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item H3.
Joseph A. Calderon requests to change the zoning classification from TR3 to TR1-A, application number 21Z00021, tax account 2315419, located in District 2.
Commissioner Lober?
Anything beyond the applicant card?
I have Mr. Joseph Calderon. That's all, sir.
Okay, I think we'll kind of treat this similarly in that case. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item H4.
This is a comprehensive plan text amendment to include a private rights element as required by House Bill 59, requiring all local governments to create a property rights element.
Commissioner Lober, sir.
Madam Chair, I know there was one typo in the actual agenda item. I don't know if it's been corrected in your copies, but on the second page where it reads, and I'm just going to skip to the fourth line here, comprehensive plan, comma, and it says included, it should read including. And I would also ask, in addition to adjusting that the line preceding that, the third line on the second page for the item, where it reads person or local government that will suffer, I would just suggest that we use may, could, or might. I think may is probably the cleanest as it's in line with the other terminology. And the fact of the matter is we already allow it anyway, so I think that's in keeping with what we're doing.
Yes, sir, I'm good with that. Commissioner Zonka, ma'am?
I already know the answer to this, but just to be clear, we added another paragraph to this based on what P&Z recommendations were, and these are outside what the state legislature was looking for as far as our comp plan update.
Yes, ma'am. The LPA's recommendation was to add that paragraph.
And just another question, and maybe this is a question for the attorney, but is that next paragraph necessary in your legal opinion? Because those things should be covered by local ordinance based on,
That is correct. So we have the 4 conditions that were proposed by the legislature. So those are the first 4 on that page 1 of your agenda item. The addition by the LPA is additional language may not necessarily necessary because it is covered in the definitions under Chapter 163 of Florida statutes.
And see, my only concern would be not having it clean and not causing a rile if it's unnecessary to do so. It's nice to put the language in there. This in itself, let's all be honest, property rights, this is all posturing by our legislature. I'm sorry, it is. It really is, because it doesn't mean anything.
How do you really feel?
Tad, can you it means jack, because we're supposed to consider those things anyway, correct?
I don't believe that private property rights has ever been an issue or concern in the board's
Exactly.
decision-making.
I guess they want us to make sure that we're aware of private property rights, which I think this board's done a pretty darn good job at doing. So, I'm happy to appease them and happy to put a stamp of approval on it, but I would say let's just take it out.
Whatever you all want, I'm fine with it. If we do take it, then I would ask those couple adjustments be made, but if we don't, I'm fine just using the bullet points on the preceding page.
I'll make a motion, ma'am.
I'll make a motion to approve with just the first 4 sections.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, we have one more item, and Mr. Ian, sir, you were going to give us an update on the rental assistance.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate the opportunity. As you know, our emergency rental assistance program has been running for about 26 weeks now. In that time, we've received about 1,823 applications. That includes about 1,500 initial or first applications and about 323 repeat applications. And repeat because the way the law works, you can not only pay the money that they owe on their rent, but you can also help them with additional prospective assistance. In this time period, we've obligated about $6.2 million of the $18 million that was allocated to us. 4.3, almost 4.4 million of that is for direct assistance. The remainder is admin that's been obligated. The latest article I could find said that the state of Florida, as of the beginning of August, had obligated less than 3% of their $871 million. At that time, we obligated either, depending on how you do the math, either 24 or 32%. 32% if you look at it as a total obligation of the total dollars, 24% if you're looking at just the dollars that were for direct assistance. We have taken several actions since the implementation of the program. As the board knows, when you approve the policy, you approve some waiver language. So we've done waivers to this point. The first waiver was to allow for a further prioritization beyond what the law requires. The law requires us to prioritize those who have been on unemployment for the 90 days prior to application and who are under 50% of area median income. And so for Brevard family of four, that's about 36,300. We found that we had a lot of evictions that were coming to us. So we did further prioritization where you meet that criteria, and if you have an eviction summons, you're actually the highest priority. And then we go down from that in the prioritization. Our second waiver had to do with additional guidance from Treasury regarding helping people with hotel stays. So we have a policy that's been put in place, or at least an addendum to the policy, to allow for that with specific criteria. For that, we're looking at people, they have to, and again, 4-page addendum, I'm trying to boil it down for you, 30% or under of area median income. We'll only help for up to 3 months. And we also require them to be actively working with the Brevard Homeless Coalition to try and find somewhere to stay. And they have to have not been kicked out of a shelter for behavior issues. We do allow attestation. Right now, we're primarily looking at it as an income attestation, and we really look at that as a kind of a last resort. For example, if somebody's employer shut down because of COVID and went under, and they can't access pay stubs, we'll look at that and look at attestation to be able to move forward with assisting them. We worked with the clerk's office, county manager's office, and the court system on evictions. Evictions, as people move through that process, once you have your eviction hearing, typically you have 5 to 7 days to pay into the court registry to stave off that eviction. That is not enough time because we found people are waiting till the day of the hearing to apply. That's not enough time for us, even if we approve you, to get a check cut by county finance. So we have the ability to use county credit cards to pay directly into the court registry in those instances. We use the same backup documentation, same auditing, things that we look at, the same processes. We just use a county credit card instead of having a check cut. And again, that's just because of the time frame, the time delay that it would take to get a check, which could be more than 2 weeks. We had been, I mentioned prospective payments. The legislation allows you to do up to 3 months prospective payments, and then you have to reapply. We had been doing it on a month-by-month basis, just to make sure that people still actually needed the help and we weren't just doing lump sums. Also because there was some concern that some landlords would take the 3-month payment and then still evict for some reason, and we have no mechanism to claw back funds. Because of the increase in evictions, because of the increase in processing time that it's now taking because of those additional evictions, we're now doing that 3 months to, again, stave off somebody who's, they don't have to worry and come back to us month after month. And they are not a priority because they're not an eviction. They're not those other things. And so we don't want to see them go into an eviction because of that. They still would have to, after we do 3 months of prospective payment, reapply. That's by law. We can't change that. Staffing-wise, we hired 12 full-time temporary positions. In addition, we did an accounting position, all to help with processing. We currently have 4 vacancies because people find other jobs and we'll move on. So we've been working with the temp agencies to try and fill those positions. And then some additional things that we have that we've been working on is Treasury recently came out with a promising practices regarding additional attestations that are available, and they cover a number of things, some of which we actually already apply, having to do with self-employment, having to do with if you have zero income. Some other ones that we're currently looking at have to do with a roommate attestation or certification, a lease certification, and we're not as comfortable with that, but we'll be working with the county attorney's office to determine that would look like if we move forward. Treasury had also identified some additional policies that came out on the 25th of August. And of the 7 that they identify, we're actually already doing 3. Some of the other ones, again, we have some internal concerns about. Also, one of them is to try and find a not-for-profit, for example, that will make payments while you're processing. But we can search, but I'm not sure if there's a not-for-profit, a non-governmental agency that has the funds that they're willing to risk if at the end of them putting the money out, we end up denying the client for some reason, the applicant. So that one's a little iffy about how we would move forward. And then to do kind of advance assistance to landlords based on estimated arrears. And I'm not quite sure about that one too. So we're currently looking at those other options and reviewing them. And then we are in the process of revising the application itself, which would be another waiver to hopefully make it a little bit easier, but also to gather a little more demographic information for our reporting requirements for Treasury.
Thank you, sir. I had a call today from the Florida Today, and they were asking me about this. And so I went ahead and opened up the new Treasury guidelines, and I was reading through that, and you just answered a lot of them. You know, it also said you could use not-for-profits, but again, the not-for-profits are on the hook if it goes south for the funds. So I agree that would be still a tough situation, although they're allowing it. Let me ask you this question. Did it by any chance ease the county's responsibility or obligations to these funds oversight if something's not right with how we distribute them? Is the Fed saying they'll go ahead and take full responsibility if we mess up?
No, ma'am, they're not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
That was actually, we did look at the option of using NGOs or not-for-profits at the beginning, and there were a couple of reasons we didn't. One being the liability. The county does not give up its liability if we pass the work down to someone else through a RFP, for example. We would still be responsible if that not-for-profit did something incorrectly and required a payback. It would have to come from general fund. It would have to come from the county. We would then hopefully have a contract that would allow for a clawback language with that not-for-profit. But how long that would take and what that process would look like, I can't guarantee. Additionally, one of the things that we looked at the very beginning of this program was the idea of trying to get it up and running as quickly as possible. So the law was signed in December 27th, 2020. We were before the board by the 12th of January. And then we had the draft policy to you by the end of January, that second meeting. And then our program was actually up and running mid-February. So based on a call I had, a national call, end of March, beginning of April, at that time, there was only a couple of dozen that were up and running across the country. So we were very quickly out the gate. If we had paused to do and look for those not-for-profits, it could have been anywhere from a 3 to 6 month process, depending on if there were appeals and other things.
And that'd be tough on them because they would have the liability then and responsibility. Thank you for this. I don't have any lights, but I just wanted to thank you for continuing trying to follow with best practices and finding how to keep the money going. And I did remind the reporter today that this commission made it clear that as quickly as we could get the money out legally with responsibility into people's hands that need it, that was our top priority, and it remains that way, and I thank you for your heart in working towards it, sir.
Thank you. I also want to emphasize, even though I do have that waiver language, the board has given some direction. So even though I can waive parts of the policy, there are things I will not waive. For example, the board is adamant, or was adamant, that we not pay individuals directly, even though that is allowable under the law. So that's not something that I would ever waive.
It needs to go to the landlord. I'm with you. Okay. We are moving into board reports. Mr. Abate.
No report.
Sorry, guys. Miss Abby.
No report. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Lober.
All right, this is up to you guys. I just wanted to run it by the board before I expended any kind of funds whatsoever in doing this. As far as travel funds or anything of that sort, I've never reported anything beyond mileage, never done airline, never done hotel, never done anything like that. At this point, I serve as the District 14 rep on the Florida Association of Counties board. So I'm over Brevard and Volusia on their board. They've got a conference scheduled to take place in Palm Beach County. And frankly, it's over a couple days and it starts really early in the morning. So as to avoid getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning and driving and being miserable, I was hoping that the board would be okay if I spent a couple nights over there and then paid, I believe the registration is along the lines of $200 to participate. I don't think the entire bill for everything out the door is going to be, I don't think I'm even going to hit $1,000. I think it'll be in the hundreds somewhere. But before I spent a penny, I wanted to make sure that no one here had an issue with it.
No, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve his travel expenses.
Motion to approve. Motion and a second?
Do we need a motion?
Not really, I don't think.
If y'all want to do it as a motion, or if you're just comfortable.
I think when we make this change soon, it'll be within our budget, so we would have to.
Okay.
with
Yeah,
it.
however
So,
you all want to do it.
I'm
but
good. We're all good? We're all good.
Okay, right, sounds good. That's all I've got.
Okay, Commissioner Tobias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first of all, I'd like to commend you on your chairmanship. I've purposely tried to stay away from that position. I think you and your predecessors have done a good job.
Thank you, sir.
A number of folks, I think, try to take advantage of that position, and you guys handle it very well. We have a board policy that I'm sure you're aware of, but I think you might have a little bit more backing if you heard from the board. And that's BCC 97. And it's dealing with public comment. And there's certain members of the public that are currently running for office and appreciate time in front of the microphone that is in direct contradiction to BCC 97. We have two sections of public comment, as you know, but it's actually only one. It's 30 minutes and then the remainder. So folks are treating that as two sections. So they're putting in a card for one, and then they're putting in a card for another one. And the members of the public, of course, have the ability to put in a card for any item on it, but they're using this as a time to, I don't know, campaign, I guess, for a lack of a better term. And just to be clear, page 9 of the policy says individuals may not speak under both the first and the second public comment period. So I wanted to let you know.
Thank you, sir. I'll do that.
No. I wouldn't handle it. That's, again, why I'm staying out. But as we move forward, if you let these folks know, you certainly will have my support, because it's very difficult to say someone no, but policy's pretty darn clear, and I think it's unfair to everyone else that waits their turn, that we provide people to go twice when they clearly don't. And kudos to the school board that had 144 speakers and went through those 1 minute at a time. So I think the fact that we provide 3 minutes is exceedingly generous, and adding any more is unfair to everyone else. So again, thank you so much, but I will support you no matter what you do. But if you want to bring down the hammer on BCC 97, I will support you.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, for a moment, thought Commissioner Tobias was going to let us know he was willing to serve as chair. I thought that's where you were going with that.
You can make him do it.
I have no board reports.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Zonka.
No report.
And I have no report, and I call the meeting adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.